Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. We are so excited that you are tuning in to join us for this community conversation today. We are honoring Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And Fely, I just want to get started by letting folks know the purpose of Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Right on their website, it says the purpose of this is to get everyone talking, thinking, and learning about digital access and inclusion with people, for people with different abilities. And we know folks have all kinds of abilities, but some folks might have visual, hearing, motor, cognitive impairments, and the conversations happening to learn, explore, to find best practices. Our goal is for this conversation for us all to explore ways that we can make learning inclusive and accessible for all. So we're so excited you're here tonight. Fely, how are you, my friend?
Hola, hola, buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches para todos ustedes. Thank you so much for being here with us. Super excited to be here and with you and with the amazing panelists that we have for our community conversation today. And so much, Anne, of what we do as educators, as teachers, revolves around us and sharing that we provide our students with equitable access so that they can be successful both academically and socially. We want today's community conversation to spark ideas and best practices and get people talking about the importance of digital access and inclusion.
Absolutely. Well, friend, I'm ready to get started. We have some incredible guests today. I want to let the folks know who are tuning in. Let us know. Keep the conversation going on social. So feel free to use that Flipgrid for All hashtag or use the Global Accessibility Awareness Day hashtag GAAD. And definitely let's learn on together. So, Fely, I am ready to welcome our first guest. She is a good friend of mine from Southern California. Everybody say hello to Karyn Philhart. Hi, Karyn.
Hello, everyone.
How are you today?
Hanging in there. How are you?
Good. Hanging in there. That's a great way to say it. Karyn, let us know a little bit about your role, where you're at, and then we'll continue to add the other guests before we start the conversation.
Sure. My name is Karyn Philhart. On Twitter, you can find me at Filibuster3, as it says on the screen. I am a technology training specialist, which basically means and staff. Oh, I disappeared.
That was my fault. I'm sorry.
So I'm one of a team that supports all parents and families and students and teachers and administrators with using their technology. And being a former special ed and elementary teacher, it's a passion for me. And so I work a lot with our special ed team trying to find supports that really support everyone, not just our students who have IEPs or identified needs. So it's personal and professional.
I love that. Karyn, thank you so much for adding your voice to this conversation tonight. We're going to go ahead and add in another incredible educator. He's known as Mr. Tasby. Shandrick, how are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing great.
Welcome. We are so glad to have you add your voice. Shandrick, would you tell us a little bit more about you and your role in education?
Yes, I'm Shandrick Tasby here from Northwest Louisiana. Currently serving as a special education teacher who also delves deep into technology and technology resources, which is how I amazingly stumbled upon the Flipgrid platform. And it has definitely changed not just what I do in my classroom, but what we do at my school in general. This year we had the coolest idea to make our yearbook interactive by using QR codes to give those kids that live memory that they can always have.
I love that. That is so cool. And Shandrick, I'm going to share this real quick. You actually are on our accessibility and inclusive design board with some other incredible educators and partners. And we just want to say thank you so much for helping us continue to learn as an organization as well, and really talk about best practices and inclusive design as we build Flipgrid forward. So shout out to all of the incredible folks and partners on this board, but I wanted to shout you out too for that.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, we do have another guest who's joining us tonight, our awesome teammate and friend from Flipgrid, Liz Maddy, who's the head of accessibility at Flipgrid. Hi, Liz.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here tonight. Thank you, Anne.
We're so excited to have you join in.
Yeah, as Anne said, I lead accessibility at Flipgrid. I'm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
So cool. Well, friends, I'm ready to dig into this conversation. Fely, do you want to start us off with the first part?
Claro que sí, con mucho gusto. Yes, ma'am. So we want to start our conversation with you all telling us a bit more about your role and passion for inclusion and accessibility.
Me first?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So for me, I'm a special education teacher, primarily for grades 3 through 5. And about 20% of my school does have an IEP. So we have to be very creative in what we do. And that's where I come in to bring in a ton of my crazy ideas that may work and probably won't work, but we will always attempt those. So my philosophy on education is that everybody has to be able to give their best effort with every single resource that's available. So that leads to a lot of sleepless nights for me because I'm like, hey, I got to make sure this kid has this kid's going to need this. So my passion for inclusion also kind of goes into the academic parts of school as well, because my district is a big proponent of full inclusion models. So we actually do a lot of co-teaching, so my ideas may not be good, but my co-teachers may be, and we're able to be fully inclusive by presenting several different ideas, several different ways for one lesson, and we can bring in as many technologies as needed just to make sure that each student has an opportunity to learn something of the material that we're presenting. And it's been one of the most amazing things that I've done for the past 2 years, co-teaching. So I am all about getting kids in there in the trenches, as we would call it, and making them learn even when they don't want to, but also making that fun.
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head, making learning fun and making it come alive by providing pathways for students to engage. I love that, Shandrick. Thank you for sharing.
I'll jump in. So for me, inclusion really has been a passion of mine since, I will say honestly, the last century, because some of us have been teaching a little bit longer than some others. And I love that when I started talking about mainstreaming and inclusion, it was kind of looked at that as kind of an odd thing, like, oh, what are you doing? What's that new thing? So I love that it's at the forefront of so many conversations now. I think so many of our students, whether they have an IEP or not, can benefit from these tools. And for me, I was looking at the Made by Dyslexia course on the Microsoft Educator Center, and it talked about 1 in 5 have dyslexia. 1 in 5, that's 20% of your classroom. And these tools can help so many people. The other thing is it can be temporary. Maybe you have a disability need right now. I was walking my husband the other night in his wheelchair because he had injured his ankle, and we couldn't get across one area because a car was blocking the driveway, and I had to roll him out into the street. And I look at curb cuts, which, benefited people in wheelchairs, but also those of us pushing strollers or having knee injuries, which I've had before too. So I love how important it's becoming, and I love how important companies have started making it a key thing, and classrooms and educators, flexible seating, which again, I had back in the 90s. I had car tires with pillows, and kids would stand, kids would sit, kids would roll on the floor. It was whatever worked for learning. So I think it's so important that these conversations continue and that we have authentic voices sharing what's going to work for them and what they need.
Yeah, what's going to work for learning. I love that. So powerful. And keeping the conversation going, right? Yeah.
And I love what you mentioned, that accessibility is everybody's responsibility. It's not only a group of teachers, but it's a responsibility that should be happening in the entire campus, the entire district, and the entire planet as well.
Liz, tell us a little bit about your role. I know your passion. I know the story of how you got started on this path, but I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your role and passion for inclusion and accessibility.
Sure. My eyes are really opened as a grad student when I started working on a project for the DHH community to close the reading gap. And then it extended from there. When I started this role, I also learned that my son was dyslexic. And so personally, it's just been an awesome journey to navigate with him alongside my role and all the resources that Microsoft has. It's been incredible.
Well, and you play such an important role in building Flipgrid forward and making sure it is accessible for all. I know you're going to share a few insights later. Friends, let's keep this going. I'm curious about why your thoughts about why a conversation like this is so important. And I'll just start it off as after my time in public education, I taught third grade and first grade, and then I was a technology innovation coach for K-8. And I feel like I didn't have a lot of training. Karyn, you mentioned specifically students who might have dyslexia, dysgraphia. There are these different abilities that I might not have been aware of or understood or been able to sort of teach to the best way to support students who might have had dyslexia. So I just feel like the conversation hasn't been out there enough, or the training hasn't been out there enough, or people didn't know what they didn't know, right? So I think having the conversation and exploring resources is just one way to keep the momentum going to ensure we provide pathways that support different learning modalities, different learning abilities, different, whether there is a disability or an impairment, no matter what, everybody has the right to learn. So let's keep the learning going and find ways to make it work for them. That's my soapbox moment.
And I think because, you and I being in California with our credential process, it was one class for special education. And I ended up going on and doing my master's in it, but one class, and all of a sudden we're supposed to know what to do for students who need accessibilities. But the advantage that people have now are those online PLNs, your social media, your friends on Twitter, your Facebook friends, because I have a couple friends who have disabilities themselves who are like my go-to people that if I have a question, I know they'll tell me honestly what they think. But I also have this amazing professional learning network on Twitter and through the Microsoft expert community and through Flipgrid and through so many different places where I can get those authentic voices and ask for help and get supports and resources. And I think that having that conversation is also being willing to know that what you don't know and listen to others and learn.
That's a great point.
Yes, and also, if we never have this conversation about accessibility and why it's so important, then we never improve, because I have several students who just this year have shown so much growth and even more potential because we're using things like Flipgrid and other platforms. One of the novels we read this year was pictures, and students were having to interpret those pictures by recording their Flipgrids. And it was the most amazing thing just to see what you could pull out of these kids who typically don't read, but they have these huge imaginations. And it was one of the most amazing things. And then we would go in and flip that by downloading the captions and have them edit their writing based on what they said in their video. And it turns into this big old project where you get so much from this kid that is a struggling reader, doesn't like to participate, but he's able to give you so much because of accessibility.
Yeah. Shandrick, that reminds me of time in my classroom with my first graders as students were either acquiring language or developing oral language fluency using that text-to-speech feature and realizing that's one way just to empower them. It's just a shift, but if it's helping them, why wouldn't I do that? And that button was created and put there on the device for a reason such as this. So then taking it and downloading the captions and editing it. And I mean, that could become a writing lesson. It could become a vocabulary lesson. It could become any kind of thing beyond, but you simply altered the approach to empower the learning. I love that example. Thank you.
And these conversations are it's not about one conversation, but it needs to be conversations because they need to continue happening. They need to continue right? It's that, like, sometimes, unfortunately, it's one PD at the beginning of the year, and then we start with the school year, and everything comes to us as educators, and you all know how it is, right? At the beginning of the year, we have so many things going on, but it is something that needs to continue. The conversation needs to happen every day, every day. I love what you said about inclusion, right? Like working with other teachers and your PLNs, your PLC, and finding ways, finding ideas to differentiate your instruction for your students. It's not about your students differentiating for you, the teacher, but it's about us differentiating for our babies, for our students. I am and always will be an ESL student, but an ESL teacher as well in middle school. And I know the lack of language is not a disability, but accessibility and inclusion definitely made a huge difference in my recent immigrants, my babies that move from other countries to here to the US. And that's why we need to have these conversations, because it is going to benefit everyone in the classroom, every single one, even us.
Liz, I'm so curious, and I'm just kind of calling you out on this. Like, you work on a product to making sure that it is accessible for all. Could you, I mean, what does that look like on a daily basis? This is a completely new question, but I thought, like, this is like, you're building this.
Yeah, we have a baseline of accessibility standards that we need to ensure that are for our community members with low vision or low mobility, or that use screen readers, that they can navigate and use our products just like everyone else. So that's kind of the baseline standard. And then from there, we add awesome features and different aspects of the camera to allow the students to choose and do something that they're comfortable with, how they can share their voice.
That's so cool. Thank you for giving a peek into that. I know some of our teammates are watching. I saw Jennifer and Sophia and Marty and awesome teammates at Flipgrid. Thank you for being a champion for accessibility and inclusion as you all help build Flipgrid. So that's just my other soapbox moment. I guess I'm on my soapbox tonight. So, friends, I'm so curious about in your communities and best practices. Shandrick, I know you mentioned working with a co-teacher. So the conversations about, your best strategy or learning from your colleague. Karyn, as a coach, you're helping empower fellow educators. What are some of the best practices that you share or use to ensure that learning is accessible for all?
One of my favorite best practices is to just teach with a high level of rigor. I'm not sure if that's a really good one, but I mean, we do, even with our students with disabilities, we teach the same level at all times, because we have come to the realization that even though they may not grasp every single thing we're presenting to them, they're going to get so much more than if they were removed to a resource type class or not even taught the grade level curriculum at all. And again, we've seen so much growth by incorporating these things like Flipgrid and giving them the actual opportunity to say what they want to say, or just be silly on video, and have a good time. And they don't realize at the same time they're learning so much. And so in my best practice, I would have to say that it's, making sure that those kids are held accountable and know that they are able to be successful.
Mm-hmm. And championing that in them and encouraging them and helping them gain confidence and believe in themselves is that beautiful ripple out of that. So thank you, Shandrick. Thank you.
I think that's a great point. And also having no fear to try something new or to have your students teach you. I have students who are teaching Minecraft to their teacher and using Minecraft for education in their classroom. And they said, I've seen junior high classes completely silent. And for those of you who teach junior high, that is unheard of, to watch a whole room on task, because they're in Minecraft for education and they're using Immersive Reader with the signs and translating it. And it's just phenomenal. But the things to think about are, feel free to ask questions, ask your colleagues, find your specialist on campus and find out what they recommend. But a lot of these tools that we see, like text to speech, speech to text, the changing the background colors, those can benefit everybody. I've done trainings where I've turned on speech to text and opened Word and had all that I was saying appear on the screen. And I love watching the people go, what? And wait, everything she's saying is appearing up there. And then when I'm done and someone says, well, what are we supposed to do? I can just point at the board. It's all right there. They're getting it visually, they're getting it auditory, all those modalities. And I remember being in a meeting one time about a student, and a diagnostic center was telling us, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I'm listening. And the parent stopped him and said, she's doing all that already. That's just good teaching. Mm-hmm. Good teaching is accessible. Having visuals, having auditory, having kinesthetic learning, all hands-on. That's all just good teaching. And that's what some of our students need. They don't all learn the same way. So throw it at them every way you can. I love that Flipgrid has added the ability to not have videos on, to have text, to have comments. And, for kids who aren't verbal, they can type, they can, text it in, they can do what they need to do. And it really has become Flipgrid for all. And I love the journey that I've seen Flipgrid make over the past few years. And I'm just so grateful for how Flipgrid responds and listens to requests from users and what we see as our needs for our students and users.
I love this, and it's all about choice, right? Providing our students with choice. I'm providing you with all of these. To me, for my ESL babies, visuals were repetition, the timing, everything was there as part of your best practices, right? Not only for your, in my case, my ELL students, but for every single one of my students that I had in my classroom. But I will tell my babies, okay, then this is the expectation, because the expectation is going to be high. I'm not going to be changing the expectations for you. It's going to be there, and we're going to accomplish it. We're going to accomplish it together. Now, you're going to show me that expectation. You're going to show me your thinking, whatever way you want to, whatever way you feel comfortable. And that's when the magic happens. And I love what you said about that, because I used Flipgrid with my babies, with my students, for language acquisition. And sometimes it was a beautiful video, and sometimes it was an emoji covering his or her face. It was just about choice. So thank you so much for that.
This is powerful when you think about, I know as a coach, I talked often about providing pathways. And that's one of the things I love to share. And Karyn, you brought it up. All of the different features inside the Flipgrid camera, from the mic only mode, remaining off camera, utilizing your voice, whether it's a podcast or just an audio description, utilizing I say that's a text box, that's an annotate, that's a text box, that's a text box, that's a text box. But the power of a visual, or the power of a support. I know Fely and I talk about this often, working with students who are English learners or acquiring language. The visual support of a Flipgrid sticker or an emoji has so much power. And what is visual vocabulary, and how does that play into it? So I love that you brought that up. Liz, I know there's a feature that I'm going to skip ahead and share this. Let's talk about I think it's one of all of our favorite features inside of Flipgrid, and it's called the Immersive Reader. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to the screen, and I have a topic queued up. But Liz, when folks see this blue button and they click on it, something magical happens. Would you describe a little bit about the Immersive Reader as I click some buttons?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, the Immersive Reader is incredible for any early reader or someone that struggles with reading. It has so much customization. So you can increase the font size and the reading speed. Sorry, I jumped ahead.
Oh, no, just keep talking. I'm just pushing buttons.
Okay. Change the font. You can change the colors, to cater to whatever is going to work best for you or your learners. You can also have focus mode. And so to help if you're dyslexic, so you might not jump from line to line, it'll focus it as you're reading. You can also highlight nouns and verbs as adjectives, as Anne was just showing. And this is the focus mode that I personally love.
Yeah, what a great tool to help track. I remember passing out strips of colored transparency or colored paper, and students would literally track. But this is cool because you can do multiple lines or a single line and toggle it on or off. Liz, tell us about this incredible picture dictionary inside.
Yeah, that's a great feature just to help give visuals to go with the words for learners.
Right.
And of course, they have the translation, which is really, really huge, especially maybe you have a parent that doesn't speak the language at home, trying to help the learner, or however it works. It just gives the learners a lot of options to figure out how they can consume the content.
Yeah, and toggling between the language. I think there are over 70 languages represented in that translation feature. And this is available for everybody. It's fully embedded throughout Flipgrid, and it's one of my favorite features to share when talking about it. Liz, there's some other really cool things that we wanted to bring up. So I have this topic open, and I'm gonna open up my response. Hey, everybody. Click pause on that, because you'll notice that same button right there, the Immersive Reader button, is fully embedded. So anytime you see that icon, click on it, and that will enable the Immersive Reader, which is a Microsoft learning tool, fully there for anybody who wants to utilize it. But Liz, embedded throughout Flipgrid is the option for closed captioning as well, too. And there's some really cool ways folks can use captions in Flipgrid. Do you want to describe a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, one of the awesome features we added recently is to edit closed captions. So educators can go in and say, it's a younger speaker, so the words weren't quite translated right. They can go in and fix it, and so that it is accurate for what they meant, and save it. You can also regenerate captions as in a different language if it incorrectly categorize them. And then are we sharing about the new feature?
Well, I don't know. We've got some teammates on the back. There is something new coming, and it's been a moment since I've checked the notifications to see if we're allowed to release this information. Let's see. What does it say? Oh my gosh, I think it's live. And friends, I've never even used this yet, so this is a learning moment for me. I don't even know if I know how to use it, but Liz, why don't you tell us what you know as a brand new feature to support accessibility inside of Flipgrid?
Absolutely. So this is really huge, particularly for the DHH community. So if you record a video without audio, you can actually generate an empty closed captions just through that editor right there. And then you can go in, and if you have a student who communicates using sign language, you can put in the text for closed captions so that their classmates that don't use sign language can understand what they're saying. So that was our brand new feature that we've been super excited about.
And I'm just getting a text from one of our teammates. This is, to reiterate, the ability to add closed caption video to no audio videos, which is amazing. And this is brand new, shipped live today. Karyn, right? Like, I just saw your reaction.
That's huge.
This is incredible. So if somebody's recording a Flipgrid response and there is no audio in it, you can still generate a closed caption to provide support for that. So I cannot wait for folks to dig into this and figure out ways, not only to support and empower their community, but folks are going to do other sort of creative elements with this as well too. So, oh my gosh, it's brand new live inside of Flipgrid. I've never done this before, but we're getting all the pings from our internal communication that it is live, and we wanted you all to know that first. Oh my goodness. Friends, Shandrick, yeah, what's up?
I'll be sleeping tonight because I'll be playing.
Right. I kind of think that all of us will be too. I'm all about let's go push all the buttons and play to learn. And I think that was the approach I took as a first grade teacher. Whether students, we don't all fit inside the same box. We don't learn the same way. And celebrating that and realizing that's actually a strength we can bring into our community. I think that's one thing I love so much about talking about inclusion and accessibility in the classroom. And shout out to my mom and sister. My mom was a special educator. My sister was a adaptive PE specialist. So I love exploring with my own family the best ways to empower everyone. Is that my microphone that's going crazy now?
That's what I was just trying to figure out.
I don't know, but let's do this. Fely, why don't you take this and I'm going to go on mute.
Okay, my friend, here we go. So, how can folks continue to learn about accessibility and grow in their practice, right? It's all about learning. It's all about us to continue to be students. So here we go.
Well, I think that we mentioned earlier the Microsoft Educator Center, and for me, the courses that they've worked with in partnership with Made by Dyslexia are phenomenal. They have a couple of them just on an awareness of dyslexia. And I have to say, so full disclosure, I have 3 teaching credentials. I have my master's in special ed. I took that first course and I learned from it. And I've been a special education and a classroom teacher for way more years than I probably care to admit. And I learned so much, and they just added more on teaching students with dyslexia and how, ideas for the classroom. The other thing for me, because I'm a bit of a geek, my high school job, I was a computer operator. So I've kind of got the geeky brain going on too, is learn.microsoft.com has free courses on accessibility for understanding websites and some of the, like, of course, Liz probably has to deal with this all the time. The WCAG 2.0, all the ADA and the rules and the things that you have to make sure your websites are accessible. Twitter, your alt text, it's so important. And I see this in conversations a lot, and they're like, well, I don't need it. No, but one of your followers may, or someone who sees your tweet may not know what that image is. And if you give that description, it only takes a couple extra seconds to make sure that everyone can access it. So check out those free online courses. So many different companies and countries even. I've gone through some of the accessibility training that's offered by the Department of Homeland Security, of all places, has Section 508 training that's free and online, self-paced. But the best place for me to start, I say, with the Microsoft Educator Center. They're incredible courses. And the badges. It's all about badges.
And it's education.microsoft.com, right? How folks can go and get started there. Definitely an incredible resource. I believe Shandrick had to leave, so I know my computer was doing something for a minute too, but friends, there are a few other resources that I want to share really quick. I know we're coming up on time, but we have to talk about this. Liz talked about those incredible features built in. I'm going to go ahead and add my screen again and talk about the Flipgrid Discovery Library, because inside the Discovery Library, there are all kinds of ready-to-use incredible resources. And I want to call out some of our partners, specifically 2 of the partners that have these just amazing resources you can use right away inside of your classroom. One of them I want to talk about is Infinite Flow. And this is a dance company in Los Angeles that has dancers with and without disabilities, but they have these gorgeous topics ranging from what does inclusion look like? But some of the really cool ones I've been exploring, what is a disability? What are video captions? What is audio description? And these are all tools that you will notice, accessible tools folks are using. Karyn mentioned there are all of these laws for websites and social platforms that we follow to make sure people have access to use the tools. But this one, I love this about audio description. What if somebody who is with no vision is engaging in your content? Is there an audio description track that describes what's going on? And this is a really great topic that you can use not only for your own professional learning, but empower your community to learn on as well. So definitely talk and explore this Infinite Flow resource with your community. And there's another partner that I want to call out. This is absolutely another favorite to share, called Made by Dyslexia. And I know I see everybody has this big smile on their face. This is this incredible organization that is on a mission to empower the world to understand, value, and support dyslexia. So think of different abilities as superpowers. And I always point this out. There's a dyslexia challenge for teachers. Take the challenge. Raise your awareness of how you can support every learner in your community, but definitely choose to explore. It's as simple as clicking add topic and bringing it into your community, or exploring the content and learn on for yourself. So those are definitely two partners I love to share. And it's as simple as clicking on Discovery right inside your Flipgrid account. So goodness gracious, Fely, Karyn, Liz, and I know Shandrick shared so many great insights. Another great resource I just have to call out, of course, is the Global Accessibility Awareness Day. So we do have a few just banner images. Today is the day. It's actually the 10th. So part of our job as educators is to model lifelong learning. And we're so glad that all of you tuned in today to learn along with us and explore some of these resources. Liz, I know there's an oldie but a goodie, this Flipgrid accessibility blog. I'm going to cover your face for just a moment. Friends, check out blog.flipgrid.com/accessibility. And Liz, do you want to give us just like a highlight of what we can find in here?
Sure. It just goes through a bunch of different features and specifically highlights ways that our community members and educators have used Flipgrid to cater to students of various capabilities and preferences for learning.
Yeah. So many great things. Not only that immersive reader, the augmented reality QR codes. I love this example by Stacy Kennedy, who's an American Sign Language educator, bringing her illustrated comic books to life with sign language videos through that augmented QR code. So just so many powerful ways to continue to learn. And friends, I just want to say thank you for sharing your insights, sharing your ideas. And we definitely are stoked to have folks tuning in and listening and learning on with us. So any last thoughts or words of encouragement for folks out there?
I just think reach out to people on Twitter, on your social media, find those voices and interact with them and ask questions and just be open to what they have to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to say thanks to our amazing community, and please reach out. We are all ears, and I would love to hear anything that would make Flipgrid better for you and your students.
Yeah, absolutely. Fely, hey, friends, I'm checking the comments. Shandrick, I'm so sorry, friend. We're missing you. I don't know. Trying to join in again, video issues. I have been there, my friend. I thought my mic was dropping out, but I'm taking a moment to say to Mr. Shandrick Tasby, thank you so much for joining this conversation. I'm sorry that you're not able to join in again. I don't really know what's going on, but technology sometimes does crazy things, right? And it also does. I
loved his closed captioning idea too, with downloading the closed captions for writing. How cool is that?
Absolutely. So I just had to pop this in because that's where our friend is. And we just want to say thank you to everybody. What you do to empower your community and empower every voice is so inspiring. So on behalf of Team Flipgrid, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Fely, last words, close it out for us.
Yes, ma'am. So Shandrick, Karyn, Liz, thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias por haber estado aquí. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Thank you for your time. Thank you to our community. Thank you for those of you who participated in the chat. Thank you for all of you who participating either on YouTube, on Facebook. And as we close today's conversation, I would like to once again, muchas gracias. Thank you for being here. And I just want to restate, if you have questions or you are unsure on how to have a more accessible classroom, please don't forget to check out the resources discussed here today. We have amazing topics in our Discovery Library, not only for our students, for our babies, but also for us as our professional development, right? That learning that should be happening every day. Muchas gracias a todos. Buenas noches. Thank you again. Gracias.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you.